Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And as always, on Wednesdays, we're pleased to have our guy, Mr. Aaron James Hawk. Welcome into the program. I don't even know what Schlegs is doing over there. Some sort of hot call age. I mean,
summon them in. Summoning them in. Let's go.
Schlegs, tell us a story, I guess, about what's going on with the Hawks and everything else in this world.
Dude, listen, man. I was in the tree stand the other day, and it's terrible. The rut is going on, right? Like, guys being dudes, looking for dudettes out there in the woods, right? They're called bucks. Go Bucks, literally. And I'm just sitting there, and boom, hawks just flying around. You know, it's like, man, there's AJ. Every time I see, hey, there's my guy. Just out here kind of checking on me. Like, what are you doing over there, Schlegel? I'm just chilling, just enjoying some peace, right? Being still, love it. And then there's AJ. And then guess what? There he goes. Now he's back. That's exactly what happens. All of a sudden he's flying around, then he's gone. I don't know where he landed. I don't know if he just transported back to Dublin or UA, whatever. Amazing.
Yeah, we got no audio. We got no audio on Mr.
No, I got no snare in my headphones.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
It happens. It happens.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with computer, Schlegs. I mean, you're battling. We're trying to figure this thing out. Yep. There you
Boom,
go.
he's back. See, I tell you guys, it works every single time, half of the time. It's like Sex Panther.
No, we still can't hear AJ Pat, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Project Pat.
Which is probably
no.
Oh, there he is.
No, he's
we
back.
got him.
There he
You
is.
got me now?
Let's go.
You got me?
We got it. We got it. We got it.
Okay. I don't know what's happening. I don't know, but Schlegs, you saw multiple hawks at one time. That's impressive. I see one that kind of perches up on some trees around my house. And whenever we do see a hawk, yeah, my wife, my kids, we always assume like, oh, there we go. There's, you know, like my great-great-grandpa, there's some of our ancestors coming back around to say hello. So yeah, it's a real thing for us.
Hey,
yeah.
I mean, you know they have those fake tattoos, Bob. I see some of the young kids wearing them like in junior high, and I'm like, man, okay, what are we doing? But AJ, you should do that. There was like a scary movie. I think it was like the precursor to Hannibal Lecter, where your entire back is just like one big monster hawk wing.
It's called House of the Dragon, I think, Schlegs.
Yeah, something like that, but it's the House of the Hawk. Boom. It's just like, and then when you flare your lats, like they just, boom, they expand like that. That'd be amazing.
Well,
you maybe like that?
Yeah, I love that. Maybe if I get, you know, I try to build pack about 15, 20 pounds of muscle strictly in my lats, got some extra lat pull downs and some more pull ups. Yeah, maybe I'll try to, you know, I'll have to do like the anesthesia tattoo though. That's one that's so big it fits your whole back. They gotta knock me out for like 8 hours and bring in eight different tattoos.
Pain is the indicator of life. I won't ever forget this. My Uncle Tim, God rest his soul, R.I.P., correctional officer in Iowa. He told me I got my first tattoo at the skin kitchen.
That wasn't the Catholic priest who was the president of Creighton. Correct?
No, this was Uncle Tim, man. Uncle Tim, who rebuilt and drove Harleys and was tatted head to toe. Correctional officer, Iowa. Boom. My guy. I got my first tattoo. I drove from Dallas, Texas to Des Moines, Iowa, and I met him at a place called the Skin Kitchen. And he's just sitting there. He's like, you know, tattoo it on his bone. He's like, you're just gonna enjoy the pain of this. I'm like, all right. He's like an hour of pain for a lifetime of pleasure. I'm like, all right, Uncle Tim. It was great. I still have that picture. Fond memories.
I mean, I don't know if that what was it called again?
The Skin Kitchen.
The Skin Kitchen. That was a tattoo parlor, or is that where you met up before you went to the tattoo shop?
No. That's where we went. That was a tattoo parlor.
That's a back room at a Diddy party is what that is.
Oh no. Maybe they franchised it. I'll look around. Maybe they franchised that.
Yeah, I mean, H, I think that's what he's trying to lobby to get you to the Skin Kitchen, and maybe you take Hendrix there for, you know, his like 13th birthday and get him a tat together.
Yeah, he's old enough, right? Let's get the Hawk Wings. Age 13. That's when I get all my boys the Hawk Wings on their back.
Yeah, I like it. That's
family tradition, man.
Well, time to cross over into adulthood. Time to become a dude. I like it. I like where we're kind of going with that age.
Like a quinceañera for dudes.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. You're exactly right, Schlegs. You're right? The same wavelength right there. Yeah.
Boom.
Quinceañera for dudes. That's definitely something. Age, I know you were talking to JJ Watt about this, but you know, big day. Who'd you vote for and why?
Hey, big, you're right. As we were saying with Pat all this for so long, yeah, and you know, the NFL trade deadline day. That's the only thing going on yesterday. That's the only thing that was happening. So big day for a lot of people, and a lot of people have opinions all over the place. So yeah, what a wild world we live in, huh, Bob?
You have any opinions, I guess, about the college football playoff last night? As opposed, I mean, they couldn't have moved that off to like tonight, to Wednesday night. They wanted to keep it on Tuesday for some reason. It's on Tuesday. Ohio State ranks second, Oregon's first, Georgia's third. Big Ten has 4 teams in the top 8, the only 4 teams in the top 25. I don't know how much of the show you caught. If you sat down as a family, you guys watched it together, like watching a Hallmark movie. If your boys are into that or whatever, but I mean, any thoughts coming out of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of, from what I've seen, I didn't sit and watch the whole show. I know Joey was on there, Galloway. I love Joey and everything he can do. I got to see little bits and pieces of it, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with where it's at. And the good thing is, like, hey, if you're in the top 12, hey, if you take care of your business, you're going to be in there. You're going to figure it out. You're going to make it in. And there's obviously plenty of teams that have opportunities to jump into that top 12, depending on what happens the rest of the season. But I'm okay with it. I mean, Ohio State 2, Oregon 1, cool. Why not? Let's see what happens with that. And I think everyone else has an argument of whether we're not high enough, whatever's going on. But like, I never put too much into it. This is just kind of like the basic outline. It shows your path of what you need to do to try to get into that top 12, I guess, if you're not there, and what you need to do to stay there. So if I'm on a team, I just want to know, do I have a chance? If we win the rest of our games, which we plan on doing, do we have a chance to get in? That's all I care about. And when you know that's a possibility, I think whether that's college or the NFL, I think that's huge for a team to have that like belief.
Yeah. And it's funny too, when you guys were talking about this and your segue of political stuff in the college football playoff, there was something I saw in the old X machine about college football podcasts, and fans of college football should be really the ones that are doing the shows of like the states, because it would be so much more comical, because everybody is like straight laced and buttoned up, and like, could you imagine the antics that would be going on in that? But I'm a segue that into this. Let's say they go through the thing is the thing, and I'm looking at it right now. We're playing Boise State, Ohio State ranked 5, playing Boise State, then going to BYU. Do you think that, again, year one, the bracket is the bracket? And then do you think that, is there a time that comes when the bracket gets readjusted after the quarterfinal to actually have the true Final Four if teams are really playing well, because that impacts it, right? Or does it make more validity to being a conference champion and having your stuff, like being the seeding the way that it is? But then you also have the outlier in a BYU ranked 9th right now going in and being a 4th seed, when a lot of people don't think that they should be a 4th seed, right? So do you do that and do you not make it to 4 conference championships? What is your take on that, AJ?
So I'm a bit confused by the question. First of all, I don't know
it's
if
okay, because I threw 3 of them out there.
So
within one.
You're saying eventually, maybe after the first round, do they reseed the bracket? You're saying, is that what could happen
after the quarterfinal round, the first 2 rounds?
You're saying, do I see that if they do that maybe in the future, because they're not doing that right now? Obviously, the bracket is the bracket as we see it. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. I didn't really thought about that much until listening to you go through that. But yeah, that would make some sense, and I think it would also create some more drama, create some more, animosity from people to yell at each other and claim that, hey, we're not seated right, we need all this stuff. Whatever happens, I think there's passionate fan bases everywhere. So anything, like, we just want to find out who the best team is. That's all anyone cares about. And whoever wins, like, I don't know. I love the fact that there's 12 teams in playoff this year, just because so many teams, like, we see, first off, with everything going on, we see some huge regular season football games in college. That's awesome, that we usually don't get with all the conferences and everything that aligning. But yeah, like, if you have a chance, hey, think about it. If you squeak in at, like, let's see who's going to be the first, like, 12 seed to sneak in there and win it all. Like, that's going to be a thing, and gives everybody a lot of hope.
Absolutely. I know it's been a couple days out. I'm sure you're locked in on that Penn State game, sitting there. My kid sat down and watched it. I mean, it was fun time. A little bit of anxiety there when you start off, 10-0 in the hole. Kind of your thoughts and takeaways from that game from the players' perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I was pumped watching Ryan Day come off the field and see Chip Kelly and see how juiced they were, how excited they were. Like, you're at Ohio State, like, you're coaching, like, I can't imagine the pressure that's on and every single thing. Like, a win is just a relief. It's not even like fun anymore because the expectations are so high, but that's what you want. I get it. That's a great position to be in. So to see them kind of enjoying it, at least for 10, 15, 20 minutes, I was happy to see that. But I think honestly, it says a lot about the team. They were able to go up to Penn State, definitely not play their best game, and still find a way to win and come up with some huge plays when you needed it. And another heartbreaker for Penn State, obviously. But I just love how they fought when they, backed up on your 1 yard line. You go down and you run the ball when they know you're going to have to run the ball. Like I love when you're able to do that, especially with all the shifting and the O linemen playing positions they never played before and moving guys around. Like that's not easy to do. Those guys need to be a cohesive unit. I think they did a great job.
I'll say this too. I think that you got Seth McLaughlin. I keep putting him out there. my hat's being delivered today. It says run the damn ball. I was going to wear it on the show for this segment. It hasn't got here. USPS, thank you. But really, that's 513, 11 runs. It's almost like that should be branded. Like that really is what the culture is, right? It's like it should be Buckeyes 513. Like everybody knows what that is. That's the standard, guys. That's the toughness that we want. You know that we're running it straight up every single time, and we just did this to a really good defense. What does that say to you as these guys move forward? Because we never really talked about a lot, AJ. Like these guys, one, transfer, two, new system, guys in and out, but then they start to click, and you know what it feels like, how it looks, how it acts. Now they saw it. They saw what this game was, but being able to be resilient. What does that do now moving forward for guys?
It's huge. I mean, when you can, if you're an offense and you're on the road and you can run the ball when, like you said, they know you're going to run the ball. Like it's one thing to try to trick them and misdirection and do all this and, gash them for 15 or 20 there, but to just move the ball down the field, continue to get first downs. I think that builds everyone's confidence, not only the coaching staff, but all the way through all the players on that team. And then defensively, to just continue to put pressure on the quarterback, continue to be physical and fly around. Like I think that was a big win for them. And that's probably why we saw Ryan Day and Chip Kelly have show so much emotion on the field right there, because they knew hey, we got better today. Like our team got better. And we went there. We didn't play great, but we found a way to win. And when we needed to make plays, we did. And I think that's huge for a team. You got to be able to win many different ways. And I think that they've already shown that this year.
All right, AJ, for people who don't know, I mean, you're a huge NASCAR fan. AJ, the nickname comes from AJ Foyt, if I'm not mistaken, correct? I mean, that's where Big Dino.
Yeah, technically, yeah. My IndyCar racer, AJ Foyt. Yeah, my grandpa was not a professional driver by any means, but he used to build his own little carts and dirt track, do the drifting and drive and do all that. So yeah, my name's Aaron James Hawk, and I've gone by AJ since day one.
Absolutely. So there's some racing news. Tom Cruise came out with the Maverick Top Gun 2. Pretty sweet. Coming out, they're in the works right now. Days of Thunder sequel, AJ. I mean, how juicy would we be? Yes.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, if I could whistle like Schlegs, I would about this news. Yeah, I mean, anything Tom Cruise is doing, I'm on board, no question. But yeah, Days of Thunder. Like, how many? What is this? Was it 40 years ago? How many years ago did that come out?
It came out right after Top Gun. So yeah, you're talking almost, it's like 35 years old. It would be about the same age.
Good. We need some of these young bucks that don't know the greatness of this movie. Maybe the sequel could bring them back, and then it'll make them go back and watch the first one, because that thing was an absolute, work of art. This is a great movie. I'm all for it.
I mean, is Nicole Kidman, wasn't he married to Nicole Kidman at some point?
I think
boom, bring her back.
Yeah, I think we get Laura a nice little blonde wig. You can get some of that dye your hair up age. You guys could go as Tom.
That's the theme next year.
Yeah,
Halloween party.
That'd be sweet. I'd love to wear a fire suit. Then you don't have to go to the bathroom. You just pee in that, don't you? Isn't that what they all do?
I mean, you can really do anything. All your fluids will stay in there, AJ. So it really locks in the scent, locks in the flavor, which I know you're all about. And Schlegs, you can even go hunting in them later. You got the scent lock on to trap your musk, which would be tremendous. So
mine would be a camo. That'd be amazing.
Exactly. Well, AJ, I know you got to get running to McAfee. Thank you for spending some time with us today. Came out June 27th, 1990. So, I mean, it's going to be at least 25 years young. And AJ, I hope maybe you're celebrating, maybe you're crying. I don't know, what your voting status was, but you just try to you stay strong today, whatever happened. All right.
I am, Bob. Thank you. I'm gonna stand strong, and I'm excited for whatever's gonna happen and all the chaos and people's opinion. That's great. I love to watch sports and talk about sports.
I just can't wait for January 6th, the birthday of AJ Hawk and the day of the insurrection. It's all coming back to us here this year, 2025. Have a good one, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Before we get out of here, I want to tell you about Export. Parents and athletes, protect what matters most. You see those pearly whites that AJ has? They're trusted by professional athletes, designed by NHL team dentists. Export guards are scientifically tested to help absorb those high-impact hits, protecting both the teeth and your brain. They feature 3 layers of custom protection, patented use of carbon fiber, 3D printed to your own custom smile for a tremendous fit, better performance, max comfort, clear communication. Focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety, folks. Visit exportguards.com/Bobby. You can save 15%. Protect what matters most with Export. Get some more Buckeye news coming your way next.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like. I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
All right, welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter program, and we got our guy, Mr. Anthony Schlegel, with us. We're going to have Chris Plank also joining us, Oklahoma Sooners radio. We did the college football playoff selection show on Sirius XM last night, so get his thoughts on what happened in that. We had that from 6 to 9. And folks, if you're watching, please remember, like, subscribe, leave some stuff for us in the comments. We always love the nuggets. Just keep trying to grow this thing as much as we possibly can. So like we talked about this offensive line, and AJ was saying like how tough it is when you go on the road to be able to grind out victories, and love to see the offensive line come together. The 4 of the 5 offensive linemen were the players of the game on the offensive side, which was pretty darn tremendous. I think it kind of sets the tempo of what you were expecting. And a lot of it goes into, the leadership. We talked about Seth McLaughlin, who's awesome, who I believe has a girlfriend, Schlegs, named Sarah, who, if they ever finish and, fully tie the nuptials together, that'd be another Sarah McLaughlin, which I think is a win for the country. But I want to focus on a guy who's been an All-American here at Ohio State, really talented guard, who's now playing tackle, Donovan Jackson, who was the leader of this offensive line. He's kind of been the heart and soul of it for a while. And to do with a big personality, and it was great to see him show that personality at Penn State. Watch those. What the heck are you doing over there?
That was what Donnie was doing.
Like
at the 2-minute drill. He was like, he's getting juiced.
You looked like a largemouth bass ready to suck down a lure. Or a dude creep into one of them white parties. I'm not sure which, but either way, the hard-boiled egg test is alive and well. But Donovan Jackson, Schlegs, he had some lines. I'm going to throw this up, Pat, about what he was talking about with Ohio State, and like, is it scheme? Everyone always wants to get in, like, what's the scheme? What are we doing? And what does that ultimately look like? And Schlegs, I believe he had the talk about, we just got to drop our sack and attack. I think that's kind of where it is and what he was kind of leaning into.
Yeah, he said we had to drop our nuts.
Drop our nuts and drive.
And there's guys, there's moments in everybody's career when that does take place. And we had talked about it, right? Like dude's not gender, it's a lifestyle, but there comes in points when you got to become a dude or a dudette, and they're all different for all people. And I think, but when you look at like this team, this was a pivotal game. They talked about it behind closed doors, but the one thing that you and I always talked about, Bob, was us seeing a complete game. And was this a complete game? It was a complete game, not perfect, but complete. And I say that because you saw a defense that didn't give up any touchdowns. And the pivotal moments of this game, the toughest moments of a football practice is inside drill, period. It is. It's the most physical. It's the most juiced up, animated part of practice. And then within that, especially during camp, you have your red zone goal line inside period, Bob. You know this. It's like, boom, here's the ball. Ball's on the 4, ball's on the 3, ball's on the 2, ball's on the 1. Boom, go back, and we're running it, right? And then you'll do it and you'll run it back. And now they'll add some play action passes, some other red zone concepts that they want, and you'll do that. That will be your 8 plays that you get as a 1 and a 2 in those moments. But it's physical and it's hard. And you saw the defense now 2 weeks rise up and get a goal line stop. You see it at the end of the second quarter where they get an interception. You see the offense in this basically an 11-play inside period, knowing that they're going to run the ball. Because like when you do inside run in practice, like you'll have a safety that comes in to help, and you teach these guys like, hey, you're not going to come in there and blow up a guy because they got to get the fits, because you got to, you're not a thud up guy. You're coming from the side, but you don't have the corners. You don't have other run support. So it's really about setting the edge and filling the gap. But yet we're going to run the football and impose our will. And that's where that good on good, that's where you and I watching the eye test of the physicality of that Tuesday practice that then goes into it, just reiterates and reemphasizes why those periods have to be as competitive and physical that you get, because the body craves contact. And in this world of
body
sports
craves
science,
contact, is that a real thing?
100%. Well, I don't know. Mine does, right? Like I love it. I love contact, man. Like
I need like 12 hugs a day is what I've been told on Instagram to like make sure
I'm just talking like wrestling.
wellness.
Like I grew up wrestling, man, and I grew up playing
dude on
football.
dude.
Like, no, I just like if you were like, hey, Bob, what's the one thing besides the teammates that you miss most? To me, it would be the physicality of practices. Like I miss it, man. I miss that. I'm 43 years old. So, but again, back to this team, that's the growth, that's the maturity. That was what you wanted to be able to see on tape, because now you have straight up objective evidence of what it looks like to fight, the culture, what it looks like to absolutely dominate the line of scrimmage. You see that on the defensive side and the penetration from K-Mac and the likes, right? The TNTs of the world. And then you also get to see it from the physicality of those up front. And you know what? And here's another thing. Ryan brought out and said, hey, Terry didn't grade out a champion. Grades mean something. Though he had a really good game, he didn't have a championship level grade, which means there's always things to work on. You talk about it. It's not like, oh, woe is me. It's like, hey, we just got to continue to get better. It's great. While also doing your job, right? Because the grades are not on just one drive. It's on the totality of the game. So I say all this to say this. That's what Johnny said when we just had to drop our nuts. And as I like to say it, drop your sack and attack. And that was evident. They know what it looks like, feel like, acts like now. There's no going back from that. You set the standard to be able to impose your will on a great defense in Penn State.
Absolutely. Well, there's some comments that were thrown out there by Urban Meyer, Ryan Day's former head coach, the guy that brought him in here to Ohio State. And then also some comments about what happened from Ohio State not being able to win the big game to ultimately James Franklin. We'll dive in that here next on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Bobby Carpenter. I want to give a huge thank you and a shout out to Affinity Whole Health, the leaders in the testosterone replacement industry. I've been on a testosterone replacement program for a few years right now, and I've got to tell you, it's been an absolute game changer. Affinity Whole Health has allowed me to be the best version of myself, both mentally and physically. I loved how easy it was to get started. I booked my free consultation, met with my prescriber, checked my numbers, and Affinity Whole Health designed a program that was customized to fit my needs. So I'm telling you guys, if you have low energy, you want to get rid of that spare tire around the waist or take it to the next level in the bedroom, Affinity Whole Health is the place to get started. So don't wait any longer. 5 minutes of your time, book your free consultation. You're going to love the way you feel. All right, welcome into our headlines brought to you by our friends at Affinity Whole Health. They offer personalized treatment plans to help you feel better, whether you're struggling with weight gain, muscle loss, poor sleep, all these different issues. Maybe you just don't have the juice that you used to have. You want to be able to work out, go, run around with the kids, coach your sports, do stuff around the house, and you just don't feel like you have it. There's a simple solution. Go check out my friends at affinityWholeHealth.com. You go online, you sign up for the free consultation, you go to the office, they run some workups, they run some labs, they figure out some goals, what you want to try to achieve, they develop a custom plan for you. Then you go home, and what happens? Poof, David Copperfield, they ship it right to your door. It's there within 2 days, checks all the boxes, and it's going to be great. Ryan Day's been checking all the boxes. Urban Day loved Ryan. Wanted to bring him in, brings him as the offensive coordinator. He becomes the interim coach while he's suspended, eventually takes over now in his 6th season at Ohio State. Man, how that goes quickly, Schlegs. And Urban had some strong comments about Ryan Day following the game. If we can play the full audio on this, Pat, that'd be terrific. If we can throw it up here.
This kind of environment, and I can promise you, you get questioned about your toughness. Your offense line gets questioned. All you got to do is show a 59-yard drive, 11 straight runs against a Penn State team in this stadium to close out a game. That's called a 4-minute drill to perfection. Their toughness was there. The offense line, to me, won this football game. The offense line controlled the line of scrimmage for 60 minutes, Mark. That's one of the most impressive wins in Ryan Day era. That was it, to come into this kind of environment
and be able to get that done. One of the most impressive wins in Ryan Day's era. We talked about it, like closing out the game, how big that was. Urban recognized it. There was a lot of other people that recognized it as well. The team felt it. The nation saw it. And understanding what that does for the culture of the program moving forward. And that's something now that they've got to try to carry on through these next couple weeks that you may not have the juice to get up for a Purdue and a Northwestern.
Yeah, I would call that. We all remember my years, guys, it's been a decade, so I forget sometimes. But I remember in 2012, Urban came in, and I'm not mistaken if the game wasn't Michigan State at Michigan State.
Yeah, it was.
And it was the Chalice game is what we called it, right? And there was something about it, right? And that's kind of where championship water and all these things kind of came from. But it was at Michigan State at that time was the team to beat in the Big Ten. Dino, that we know very well, was doing a really good job there. And it was going on the road in that terrible locker room and going out there and imposing our will and winning that football game that kind of signified that this is different, right? Because remember, the year before we were 6-7, lost to Florida in the Gator Bowl, and boom, now you end up going undefeated in a year where you potentially could have won a national championship playing a Notre Dame. But that game in particular on the road at Michigan State, the way in which we won it, catapults you through the remainder of the year. And guys fight even more into the process, not just the results, the process. Because again, we talk about it, you're never going to play a perfect game. When this team actually plays a perfect game, not turning the football over and the way that they did and showed up on defense and offense in moments, that perfect game is going to be very, very scary. And it's also why I think that the CFP, like they put him at number 2 because of what they just did and what they witnessed last week versus Penn State.
There's a big piece of that. And then one more piece that we're going to get to. And this is by a tweet out by Anand Nanduri, NFL, covering the NFL, talking about the third and final leg of college football season. November's for contenders. And it was the Fire Ryan Day crowd. As he said, everybody, he can't get it done. It's no good. Going to get finished off in Penn State. The Fire Ryan Day crowd has officially moved on to the Penn State is fraudulent crowd, which means, like you said, we're in the final third of college football, which I always find is interesting, Schlegs, because like you can't just give somebody credit. There always has to be someone who underperformed and underachieved. James Franklin hadn't been able to win this game. He struggled against Ohio State, but now it's not a great win for Ohio State in some people's mind. It's the fact that, man, maybe Penn State just wasn't as good as we thought.
Which is so crazy because of what we've seen in college football from great wins by teams outside of our conferences. And it goes back to, if you look at like Georgia's a prime example. Georgia goes out and they get beat by Alabama, but then they go dismantle number 1 Texas. Then they come back and struggled a little bit. Florida pulled away late. but has been having a lot of turnovers. Hasn't really put the complete game together. But what is Texas? Is Texas a fraud? Right? Like I just don't get it. Like every week matters. Winning football games matter. Winning is the ultimate thing that we're trying to do week in and week out. We see that in the NFL. So there shouldn't be any fraud. I think that fraudulent goes back to this perception that we just believe all these teams are elite. Could it be that there's just a handful more teams that are really good and that you got to prepare week in and week out? We've seen Vandy beat 3 top teams. Vandy has beaten 3 top teams this year, top 25. Vandy has.
Yeah.
Right?
The
Like,
Vandy's the Commodore Schlegs.
Fraudulent. They're not fraudulent guys. Like they're not fraudulent. We held them to the first time all year to under 300 yards. Like, give credit to the defense. Like, they held Penn State to not scoring a touchdown for the first time in 10 years. Like, just give credit where credit is due, because then people were like, well, why didn't they run it with Warren up the middle? If they would have done that, they probably would have scored. The defense doesn't get to go out there and prove that they did that. They're just lining up and doing what they did. If we were on the Penn State side, we'd be like, hey, you just had Warren who ran the football for 35 yards going to the left side. Why wouldn't you put him in there on second down or run that play on second down or put him at a quarterback and still run 71 in there as an attempt because he's your best player? But you know what? Like the guys that are playing, they're not, hey, timeout, man, put Warren in there. Like, let's see if this really works. Right now, they're just going to go out there and play. So they went out there and did their job. So you got to give credit where credit is due. 2 weeks in a row, goal line stands, hard to do, everybody. So, that's why, like, boom, you tip the cap to the people that are accomplishing the mission.
Absolutely. Good point, Schlegs. We got our tailgate talk by Real Truck. We answer some of your questions and comments from the YouTube chat coming up next.
We were called soft last year. You don't want to be soft, especially when you come to the playoffs. So that's going to be a process throughout this season of establishing us as a harder team here in the
building a home for the people who are worth it. Stepping out, throwing in a line, and dropping the tailgate for a picnic. And finding far-off campsites with the people you're closest to. Upgrade your truck, Jeep, or Bronco with over 1 million parts and accessories. And bring your truck to life. Real Truck.
I don't buy into this nonsense, this conspiracy nonsense that he's got his money and he's dogging it. That's ridiculous.
All right, welcome in to the Bobby Carpenter Show, and now we got our our tailgate talk brought to you by Real Truck, and they have an offer for you. Go to Real Truck; they've got the best stuff to outfit your Jeep, your truck, your Bronco. Unbelievable gear, interior, exterior. Schlegs and I have done it for both. But you go there, you go to realtruck.com. If you spend $100, you put in promo code Bobby at checkout, you're going to get a free hat. So they're going to hook you up with some swag. So head over to Real Truck, use promo code Bobby, realtruck.com. Spend $100 on some of their great products. You're going to get a free hat, a little swag. Keep the swag, give it away. It's all there for you. Realtruck.com. Bring your truck to life. All right, Schlegs, we got some comments here in the YouTube chat from Monday. One of the first ones that I love it there. Says, I want to give a shout out to Stu. And they're like, is it STW? Is it STU? It's STW. Stu's his last name. It's Adam Stewart. For getting Lathan Ransom healthy. I had doubts he would play again. Major factor in the back end for that defense. Go Bucks. And I don't think people can underestimate the value of Adam Stewart, the physical therapist there, Sean Barnhouse. They've got a whole Tyler Soul. They got a whole crew of guys that are really stinking good that help get these guys ready to play each and every week.
Yeah, 100%, guys. I mean, they're called the support staff, and that's the strength and conditioning. That's the training room. That's the nutrition. That's the equipment room. All these people help allow these guys to go out and be at max capacity. And Stu is one of the best all time. Like, he is phenomenal.
Really stinking good. Now, another chat what came in as well and said, and if you remember Lathan, he was talking about not underestimating Purdue and making sure they're going to be focused. And it was about that, saying it's so important. The team knows how emotional the game was at Penn State was, and need to be careful not to fall flat and start slow against Purdue. Start fast, put them away early, get to the second and third stringers, valuable experience, help the team get more connected. And this is a great opportunity for young guys to play, but it's also a great opportunity for the focus of the veteran players. Like, Purdue is not a good football team. Ohio State sees better players regularly in practice, but you still have to go out there and be focused. You have to prepare and make sure you're preparing just like it was Penn State, or it's Indiana, or it's Michigan, or whoever. And that comes down to the leadership to be able to carry that over.
Yeah, 100%. And again, the best part about this is they just saw what it looks like, right? You put on the tape, this is what the standard is, goal line stand. This is what the standard is, 4-minute drill. How did you prepare for that game? That has to be how you prepare for every game. That has to be how you prepare when you go to the pros. Like, it's just the process. And now once you've done it and you've seen it and it's on tape, there is no going back. And to your point, Bob, that's on the leadership to do it, but it's also the coaches to be emphasizing that because, as you say, right, whether you permit it or you promote it, right? So that's what we want to promote. That has to be the standard. And let's see it, because that's our expectation in this Purdue week.
Absolutely. Have to be able to get it done in a big way. Now, Ted Hayes pointed out, and this was interesting, Schlegs. So Bobby pointed out last week that the emotion wasn't there, but you said some teams just have players who don't show emotion. Now, this week you're bragging about how the team showed emotion, almost like the fans were correct about last week. Was a different team this week, without a doubt. And so here's the thing, like, some guys aren't just natural emotional players. Like, they don't wear them on their sleeve. They're not more extroverted. It takes work. It takes effort. And when you're a leader, like, you're just not responsible for yourself. You're responsible for getting the entire team ready to play and making sure they're emotionally viable. And so it's not that they don't have it, but some guys, they have to get a little uncomfortable. And sometimes just because you have a C on your chest, that doesn't mean that that's the right role for you as well. So, Will Howard, you saw the juice coming out of him. You saw Seth McLaughlin. Some of those guys, they're transfers. Like, maybe they didn't feel fully comfortable leaning all the way in on it yet. And it took a little bit of time, Schlegs, for them to get to that point.
And sometimes it's just validating it in the game, guys. And like, the reason that Bob and I said it's there and that they're different, like, Bob's very different than I am, and I'm very different than AJ, and vice versa. And Nate Sally's very different than Dante Whitner. And I can only speak about the guys, and Troy is extremely different than from a Pittman, right? Or even a Teddy or a Gonzo or a Santonio, right? And a Nick Mangold is very different than a Rob Sims. But when does that come out? Well, it starts to come out because the work is validated on the field and you see it, and that emotion just comes out. And you're just like, damn, that's what we want. But it's them seeing it, not us telling them. It just happens, right? When to be able to show that, when you got to go to those different depths and levels to be able to, like, grind. Guys, it's different for everybody. And that's why the comment from Donnie resonated, because it happens to everybody at different times. And I think for this team moving forward, that was exactly what was needed. That was the prescription of what we wanted to see. It all came together. You're down, you're resilient, you strike back with a touchdown. You have goal line stands, you're home to a field goal. You're making field goals now, right? Then you have a 5-13, 4-minute drill executed to perfection. The totality of it, guys playing with emotion, playing for each other. Why we said this was great that it was on the road, so you can just get the confines. Boom, circle the wagons is just us. And it comes out. And now they know that's how it has to be all the time. And if I might not have been that type of guy, that's the type of guy that I got to be.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Hopefully we're efforting Chris Plank. He's got some issues with his mic. We're working through that. We might have some more comments.
Planks right now, Bob. He's doing planks.
He is. He's here. We're going to be back with him, get his breakdown, because we got some more comments too. We'll spill them into tomorrow's show. So stay locked in here with us. We got more coming back here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. now pleased to welcome in my buddy Chris Plank. Last night we spent 6 to 9 Eastern breaking down the college football playoff. I mean, Schlegs, he's battling a lot of things. He's got, he's had internet issues. He's had mic issues. Computer issues. Just check all the boxes for our guy Plank. He had 5 burning questions when we were talking about the college football playoff last night. Number 1 with Indiana. They come in at number 8, Plank. Kind of how did you feel about the Hoosiers?
I think it's justified. I mean, right now, and both if you want to be mad about it, I understand. But I think I'm pretty excited if I'm Indiana. You're in a position to where you can still host a playoff game, which I think they're going to do. If they beat Ohio State, well, hell, they might be in a position where they can have a first-round bye, right? So there was a lot of, I don't want to say fake outrage, but just outrage that I didn't have. Hey, did they deserve to be higher? Maybe. Did they deserve to be higher than Penn State? Probably. But I think the committee said, we like where you are. We like who you are. We got to see you beat better teams. And they've got a chance to do that with Michigan coming up on Saturday and Ohio State the following week. So, I didn't – Bobby, I was joking about this last night. I don't know if I'm necessarily great for those kind of shows because you're supposed to get really mad and over-the-top angry when something happens. And I was neither of that when the playoff rankings came out last night.
And I'm totally with you because we're not like reactionary bullet board material, hot takes type guys. Like we kind of see things through like a real prism of like reality because these aren't set in stone because teams have to be played or games have to be played. And to your point, Chris, like Indiana they've been playing really well. They've done what they're supposed to do. They're scoring 40 points a game. They're beating everybody by at least 14 points. They haven't played anybody. Penn State's only loss was to now the number 2 team in the country. Now, granted, at home by 7, so they moved down to 7, right? So you still got to play the games. And so, like, who really cares? Why get all hot and bothered? The thing to me, when I look at this is, to your point of where you are in SEC country, Oklahoma, it's chaos because right now Georgia's sitting at 2. And where are they going to go? Because they got 2 tests coming up. They got Ole Miss. They got Tennessee. Then you got Texas that still has Florida who's playing better, right? Then you got Texas A&M at the end.
Right.
Texas A&M got some issues, right? This week you got Alabama, LSU, right? And Tennessee and what they got. So where do you see this fit out? Because right now you got 4 Big Ten, 4 SEC. Do you think it stays 4-4 and then the AYOs, or what do you think about the SEC in this mix?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll tell you what, it's been a learning process for me because last night or a Saturday night, I did the post-game show on Sirius XM. And I told you A&M's done. They're done. They lost to South Carolina. They're out. But then you're like, wait, they're not out. I don't care that they have 2 losses. If they beat Texas in the final game of the season and don't trip up between now and then, they're probably going to the SEC title game and they're in. It's just it's a whole new way of thinking for me as a college football fan that it's taken a little bit of while to get used to. I wanted to put Ole Miss lost to Kentucky, and I'm like, well, they're out. But then you realize, no, wait, they're not because they can still beat South Carolina, which they did, and they beat Oklahoma, and they lose to LSU, and I'm like, they're out. Well, they're not because if they beat Georgia this weekend, they're right back in. So I think what's going to be fascinating is I think you're going to have a bunch of 2-loss teams in the SEC. I really do. And I think what's going to be interesting is because I think the Big Ten set with 4 guys. I think barring Michigan and Ohio State beating Indiana, I think they're in. I think they're in. I think they're going to lose to Ohio State, but then you're 11-1 and you're not going to the Big Ten championship game, but you're in the playoffs. I don't think Penn State's going to get tripped up again. That's 11-1. You're in the playoffs, and then Ohio State and Oregon, they're going to get in. So the thing is, I don't see anyone else jumping up. Like, is it SMU? See, I think someone's going to get SMU. And I think it's going to be real interesting to see what is valued, say, over a 1-loss, maybe 2-loss big SEC team, and then, say, a 1-loss Big 12 or ACC team. The one thing we learned for certain, I think, last night is the Big 12 is only getting 1 team in. That's it. But everything else, I think it's pretty wide open right now. I learned 4's in from the Big Ten, 4's in for the Big Ten, like the 4 horsemen, and only 1's in from the Big 12. Everything else could be crazy.
If I were to ask you, because you mentioned your Georgia schedule, Schlegs talked about it, and we're going to give you Schlegs. He is a hot take guy. His segment is called "Walk the Plank."
Stop it! I'm not Schlegs. Don't let him do that. I'm not.
Walk the plank. Okay, we workshopped that last night. The Big Ten is pretty clear cut, like you said. Who are the 4 SEC teams, if you had to guess today, that ultimately get in?
Right, and if you think about it, all of them in some roundabout way play each other.
They have a shot,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I want to say Georgia, but you got Ole Miss and Tennessee still to worry about. And I want to say Tennessee, but you still got Georgia to worry about. And I want to say Alabama, but they've got LSU and Oklahoma to worry about. And because they're going to Oklahoma, because Oklahoma's playing better. So right now, if I were to pick the 4 teams, I would say Carson Beck figures out his turnover issues, and it's Georgia. Man, there's going to be so much we're going to learn about Alabama. I haven't even mentioned, Bobby, LSU. You know, LSU, it's shocking to me. They have the worst loss maybe of all the playoff teams right now outside of Notre Dame. Notre Dame's loss to Northern Illinois is the worst loss. Number 2 might be LSU's loss to USC. And I know LSU's on the fringe of it right now, but you got them in talking about the top 20 teams. Okay, I'm set. I'd go Georgia. I think Tennessee's going to get in. I think Texas is going to beat Texas A&M, and they're going to get in. And oh gosh,
and Bama,
LSU,
Bama.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you know what? I'll tell LSU.
Okay.
I think Bama's going to lose a couple games
because that game's in Baton Rouge this weekend. That's going to be a night game.
Yes, it is.
So that's a big advantage there for LSU, and if they win that, they've got a pretty clear path. Like both Bama and LSU after that game have a pretty clear path to be able to figure it out. So that'll be interesting ultimately to see. You convinced that Notre Dame gets in?
Yes. Only because I don't think anyone's going to beat him that's left. I would love to see, my son goes to West Point. I'd love to see Army get him. Just don't think that's going to happen. I'd really, surprisingly enough, I'd kind of like to see USC scare him a little bit. But if they lose one of those, I think they're out. So I think they're out if they're a 2-loss team. But again, who knows the way things shake out near the bottom. But right now I feel pretty confident about them being in.
And this goes into the credibility of championship games. So let's walk this, right? So you got SMU, 5-0 in the conference. Here's your schedule. They got a bye, they got BC, they got Virginia and Cal. You would think they're going to win all those games. Play Miami, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now they only had 1 loss going into that game. Let's say Miami beats them. What now? Like, so now you got 2 losses, but Notre Dame has 1, but you went to a conference championship game and got beat, depending upon how close it is. You got this independent in Notre Dame, 1 loss to a Northern Illinois. Who goes, right? Because they played an extra game.
That's right.
And that's the problem that we're dealing with right now.
And I do think it's going to be fascinating. And I don't know how much time we have, guys, but if we eventually get to 14, like, okay, what are we even doing with the conference championship games anymore, right? Money grabs. We've got rid of division, so you're getting the 2 best teams, but you're getting to 14 teams by that point. And if we do get to the agreement where when we get to 14-team playoffs, and I'm getting way over my skis here, but it's 4 guaranteed from the Big Ten, 4 guaranteed from the SEC, and you get 2 from the ACC and 2 from the Big 12. I think I would take that if I was the ACC and the Big 12 right now. I really do. But as it stands right now, that's going to be a fascinating debate because I do think Notre Dame would get the nod whenever all is said and done. I really think that's going to be the way it played out. I think Notre Dame has played their hand brilliantly in the negotiations. It's like, no. We'll pass on being a top 4 team, right? We don't worry about that. And I think it's kind of helped them out whenever it comes to, the debates. Because trust me, I don't know many teams that can overcome losing to Northern Illinois and still find themselves in the 12-team playoff right now.
No, especially because they just don't have the resume with the rest of the teams they played.
That's
their resume, A&M is kind of their lone survivor. Outside of that, you've got a couple teams with Navy and Army at the back end of the top 25 and USC, not much to speak of. We'll let you go with this plank. Talk to Chris Blank, Sooners Radio, does a great job. Work with him on Sirius XM. Give him a follow on at the Plank Show on X.
Mhm.
Who makes it in from the Big 12?
If I'm Brett Yormark, just me, I'm calling the code red to do whatever it takes to get Coach Prime in Colorado in there. What'd you say last night? Call Jim Phillips, find out how he gets it done whenever they're calling and getting those calls against California to get Miami the win. I think it would be huge for the Big 12. I think it would be huge for college football because everyone lost their mind over Colorado last year and then they sucked, right?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, they're good. And I just think it would be massive. Remember, that Big 12 championship game is the early morning game. It's noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time. So a little bit more juice there. But I watch BYU, and I think they're really good. So if I'm Brett Yormark, I'm doing whatever it takes to get Deion Sanders there. But I think BYU is going to end up with that 4 seed whenever it comes time to play. And by 4 seed, I mean like maybe 7 or 8 and end up as a top 4 seed as a Big 12 champion.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, we appreciate the time. Thank you. I know you had overcoming a lot of difficulties here.
Sorry, I was so late. It wasn't even funny, dude. I'm going to go run gassers now.
Listen, it's good. I'll have your son. We'll make sure he gets a little workout regimen for you.
Thanks,
and you
bud.
guys can do some sort of ruck together. Thanks. Chris Plank, Sooners Radio. Give him a follow. The Plank Show. One of my favorites. Great guy to work with. Super knowledgeable as well. All right. Coming up, we get the parting thoughts as Schlegs wraps up the Bobby Carpenter Show after this.
Building a home for the people who are worth it. Stepping out, throwing in a line, and dropping the tailgate for a picnic. And finding far-off campsites with the people you're closest to. Upgrade your truck, Jeep, or Bronco with over 1 million parts and accessories. And bring your truck to life. Real Truck.
All right, Schlegs. Been an eventful and lively show. Give me your parting thoughts here on this Hump Day Wednesday.
Just looking at this college football playoff, the beautiful thing is everybody really still controls their own destiny. Just looking at the schedules, you got to go out there and win, right? That's why you play the game, to go out there and win. Buckeyes, right now, you have an opportunity. Just stay the course. Keep getting better each and every week, and let's see what happens.
Well, you heard it here first. We got Schlegs. The Mind, Anthony, the Mind, Schlegel. Stay locked in with us here tomorrow, 12:30. We'll be back at you live on YouTube and X. Thank you for tuning in. We got Ben Stevens joining tomorrow and maybe another guest as well as we get you ready for Purdue and another huge college football weekend here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.